So tonight, Ajahn is away. He's looking after about 100 Buddhist bicycle pilgrims. I think are in Cloverdale tonight, the KOA campground. So he's possibly right now giving a rousing talk on Dhamma. This afternoon, I was thinking about what should I talk about tonight, and usually I have some sort of theme, and then hope that it comes together, comes out, and sometimes I find giving Dhamma talks unpleasant, so I started to count. There might not be so many Dhamma talks left for a while. This actually could be it for quite a long time. Going to the Pacific Hermitage in just a matter of days, and then coming back. Going to be on retreat for a couple of weeks. Then there's the Purana, end of the Vasa, and Katina, and then departing for Thailand and India. And so there was a bit of rejoicing in that. I thought, not that that's necessarily a wholesome thing, but I thought, well, you're just counting again. This isn't really very helpful, is it? Just kind of figuring out the conditions that make you comfortable, and then seeing how you can not have to kind of live in them and comfort yourself by just counting down whatever time's left. And I thought, well, why don't I just at least think of like this is last Dhamma talk for the next few months, what I want to say. And then I thought, well, better yet, why don't I think of this as the last talk I ever give, and that I won't wake up tomorrow. I thought, okay, maybe that'll be okay. Maybe that'll work. And then it kind of, there was a dawning of like, wow, if that's really, I mean, that is possible. It's possible for any one of us. It could be I could die while I'm giving the talk, or just soon after, or any one of us tonight. Statistically, it's not that far away. And so what is it, though, that I might find important to give as information, to depart with, to offer? And there were some things that just started coming up, certain regrets, other senses of what is really important. And some of these just seem so obvious. I remember that there was a fellow who came here, and he said, this was 20 years ago. I think I was on Agartha, and he was visiting, and as a guest, I think he only stayed a night or two. And he said, I was a bhikkhu for 18, 19 years, something like that. And then he said he disrobed, and one of the, he told me the reason just very directly. He just said, oh yeah, it was just sensuality. I just wanted to experience sensuality again, and it was interesting because he recounted part of his life as a monk, and he was actually a novice trainer for a time, and so that's a long time to dedicate one's life to being a bhikkhu, is 18, 19 years. But he said one thing, and I haven't forgotten it, though I definitely have not often or always, or definitely not as much as I would have liked, or nearly as much, taken his advice. But he said one very pointed thing, which is it's an acronym, it's DWT. So you can guess what is DWT. So don't waste time. Now, we know that, often we can talk about time as a convention, but we all know what it means. Time passes. There's a sense that we don't have a lot of it. We don't even know how much we have of it. As I said, it could be just tonight. But it's so easy to waste time. It's so easy to just get distracted. And I find the main issue around wasting time is that we're not searching and finding enough gratification from our practice, our spiritual life. And so we're just turning back to whatever it is that we know, which is usually just sense gratification, or thoughts of becoming, of a sense of creating self, or feelings of just oh, I don't want to deal with this, get me out of here. And so it's very important to kind of just bring that to mind as much as possible. Like, what am I doing right now? Is this just a waste of time? Or how am I doing what I'm doing? Really looking at the way that we're particularly engaging with our spiritual life, and trying to understand if is that really helpful to us. It might be just kind of engaging with sort of berating ourselves when we're not fulfilling our particular idea of what we should, how we should be or what we should be. And so we get into a sense of kind of maybe perhaps how we've grown up, like how our parents used to berate us, or how we've been taught by other friends or teachers or whatever in our early life. And that might not be that's not helpful. That isn't something that's helpful for us to do. So just looking at how we're practicing, how we're looking at our practice, what we're doing, when we're engaging with meditation, like how are we actually doing that? As I said, it was like how I thought about giving the talk. It's like, oh, it's 3 months. Well, we might have there's 30 more minutes left in this meditation, or I still have to get my 2 hours of meditation in a day, or 3 hours or 5 hours or whatever it might be. And so that's it. That's the compulsion. Just get it done. There was a book that had a funny misprint in the title, and I very much appreciate the author, so this wasn't anything about him, but the misprint was very funny. It was supposed to be 3,000 hours of meditation, and the misprint was 3,000 hours or meditation. And, that can be a lot of what it is that we're sometimes engaging with. Like, are we really kind of present for what it is that we're experiencing? Are we kind of looking at our spiritual path as something we compulsively are doing and trying to get somewhere in a way that isn't helpful, because it's coming from that idea of like, I'm going to get this, or I'm going to do this, and I have to get this result, a sort of a very materialistic view of what is going on. And often what we're missing is this word about learning. We don't actually ask ourselves about learning. And if at the end of a meditation, each time we have some collectedness of mind, a period where we've sort of determined to do that, and then we do that, and we ask ourselves, what did I learn? And we shrug our shoulders, I don't know. It's probably nothing very good. And we walk away from that, then we've really wasted that opportunity of looking, of appreciating what it is that we've been trying to understand. So often we can have a sense that meditation is just about sitting down, and as long as I'm following some sort of physical experience in my body, then that's it. That's all I have to do. There's no other need for doing anything. And the more time that I have doing that rather than thinking, then it's successful. Well, somewhat. I mean, that's somewhat true, but it's not. It's just a little bit true, because the whole point of what we're doing is to look very closely at what it is our mind is doing. How is it behaving? How is it engaging? In the last hour of meditation that all of us engaged with, I was asked, what did you learn? You ask yourself, what was there? What did you learn in this meditation? Was it that, I was just sort of overwhelmed with thinking, and I'm not even aware of what was going on? There's hopefully a sense that, oh yeah, I remember there was a lot of thoughts around, maybe desire or something. Like, I was really angry for much of it, but I was able to put that down for a time, and then I was able to focus on my body for a bit, the experience of the body in some way, breathing, the experience of feelings of pleasantness or different parts of the body, whatever it might be. We have some sort of recollection of that, some understanding. And the more that we do this and we're exploring that, we're asking about learning, then we're seeing like what is actually going on, because each of us has our own particular propensities, our defilements, or our underlying tendencies, those things that kind of run deep. And we have to kind of take a lot of time to understand them and to explore them, to see, oh yeah, where is this really coming from? So this doesn't mean, again, if you're hearing like, oh, I'm such a failure, I haven't even thought about this. All I do is just try to focus on my breath. I mean, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do next. Well, there you go. That's your mind going in the direction of a direction that's unwholesome. It's saying like, oh, there I am again, calling myself an idiot. And this is self. This is the creation of self. This is the creation of me defining what I am, that there's this essence of idiocy that I keep finding. And that's not it. It's just this intention one has, this sense of creating that in the mind. And then we see that. And eventually we can penetrate that over some time. We say like, oh, that's just a thought process. It's just a sankhara. And we can be aware of a sankhara, and we can be aware of it arising and ceasing. And so it's just very important that we have a good perspective on what it is that we're doing with our spiritual life, because there can be a lot of hit and miss. There can be a lot of successes and failures going on, and that's just very normal and natural. In fact, it's very rarely like a linear process of just things getting better and better. But hopefully, over a long period of time, it is on the up and up, and we are, again, learning about our experience. And we're learning essentially how do we decrease our suffering. But it's easy, as I was saying at the beginning of the talk, that it's so easy just to find ways to waste time, to find distractions, and it's just very normal. You might be doing it right now. I don't know what he's talking about, or this is just boring. I'd rather think of X or Y or whatever. And, that's kind of a shame, because when we have a sense where we have a choice and we're moving against that choice to see like the Dhamma has arisen, whatever it is that's coming up, it doesn't have to be something that's wholesome. We can see, when something unwholesome has arisen, if we've noticed that, if we've noticed a thought of cruelty or fear or desire, and we see that, then that's the Dhamma. That's it right there. It's our teacher. And so we don't want to shy away from it or find some other distraction. So as I mentioned, the reason usually that we get distracted is it's much easier to find a little bit of joy in some kind of things that are either neutral or unwholesome, things that just really aren't very helpful for us. And just sort of like, what do I do? I'll just turn this screen on. And that's the way of the world right now. And any of us who work with screens, we have to be very careful, because it's just normal. There's a sense that the world has moved into just generally as a human population problem into a realm of unwholesomeness around using screens. And unfortunately, life goes by, and it's not 30,000 hours of meditation. It's just 3,000 hours in front of the screen. I don't know what the statistics are around this, but I think it's like, 6, 8 hours a day, 4 hours? I don't know how many it is for average people using phones and computers, but it's something pretty enormous. So if it's like 10 hours a day, that's like 3,650 hours. It's just pretty crazy. And then life goes by very quickly, but nothing's been gained. Just a lot of bad habits. So when we're able to do something about that, we have to convince ourselves that this isn't helpful for us. We have to consistently keep trying and striving and encouraging ourselves on this path, because it takes a lot of effort to gain the pleasure from spiritual life. It's not easy at first, and there can be a lot of frustration. And in fact, it's kind of like a maze, like one of those long mazes that you might have done as a younger person. And, there's just all these dead ends. You think you're going the right way down the maze, and then you're drawing with a pencil or something, and you just reach a dead end, and then it keeps going into another dead end. But there is a way out. You just haven't found it. And so it can be discouraging, because the skill set isn't there. And so we are continuing to posit ourselves as learners, but not to expect so much in the beginning, because there's not a lot of tools in the tool belt. And so wherever any of us are in our practice, it's not too late. There's no reason to give up, and we can keep putting in that striving and that effort that's moving in the right direction. So we use places like monasteries. We use groups of people who are aiming that direction, groups of people who are aiming the direction of the Buddhist teachings, who have movements towards sila, samadhi, and panya, and that sense of morality and how important that is, having values, morality, a sense of really being in the world without harming. And we have, our focus is on the mind. It's not in what the next political problem is. There's a sense of, when we say samadhi, it's just that realm of right effort and right concentration, the realm of mindfulness. And so we're focusing on the cultivation of the mind because that is something we can change, but there's so much that we can't. There's so much in the world that we just have no control over whatsoever. And what comes through all of this is the realization of the ending of suffering, or at least that's the goal. And that's where, panya arises through the path. Wisdom arises through the path. So we have choices we're continually making. And these choices, they're being made day by day, hour by hour. There was a guest who's been here and had written to me about wanting a monastic voice to make a statement around something that happened in the U.S. It was a political person who was just killed, a person who was a political activist. And the request was, we'll make a statement because there are people who are championing that are saying that was a good thing for this person to have been killed. And I thought about that a lot. I thought, it's interesting because we're talking about it every day in terms of not the actual event or this particular thing that came up, but it's more like, well, it's just the ending of greed, hatred, and delusion. I mean, it's not surprising. This is the realm of samsara. This is the normal thing that happens. People can be very unwise. They're reacting in ways that are without mindfulness, without care, without attention, without carefulness, without a sense of morality. And this is the world we're born into, each one of us. And that's how it is. That's reality. So that doesn't mean that we therefore just join in with everyone. But what we do is we make a choice for ourselves. Where are we going to move our minds? Because we can't control the minds of others. Can't really save everyone in samsara. You can't do it. That's not ending. There's no ending to that. And what's important is that these kind of things, these events, and all of these things that happen in history, they just keep repeating themselves over and over again. And people go through these cycles of getting upset about them and then elated and, some relief and then upset again, and just over and over again, doesn't end. So it's not helpful for us really to engage at all with that. We just, as we live as examples of goodness. And that's what we're always trying to do. But this does take a certain amount of effort. And as I said, the tendency for distraction, the tendency to want to find something else to do, to go the easier way out, to find some easier pleasure is so normal. And so we're consistently needing to essentially talk ourselves out of it, to find ways to encourage ourselves, and in that way, encourage others. Whenever we're doing good, others see that and they partake in that goodness. And that is something that really isn't easy. And yet it doesn't matter that it's not easy. This was never, the Buddha said right from the start, the most difficult thing you can do is trying to cultivate the mind toward the end of dukkha, toward the end of suffering. So we do need to assess for ourselves, are we willing to step up to that? Because the possibility is that we're not. It's like, well, I don't want to take it that far, or I don't want to. It's a lot of work. I don't think I could. I don't want to do that much work. And if we see that in ourselves, then we really need. There is a sense that if we really want to engage with this path, that we have to fight that voice. We have to find a voice that is really moving in the other direction. No, I can do this. I can engage with this practice, even when it's difficult, even when it's hard, even when I don't want to do it. I don't want to put in the effort. It's just so much easier to get another extra hour of sleep or read a book. I remember a monk, his name was Kamiko, and I lived with him for many years. And he said that, why would I want to read, and for that matter, watch anything of anybody's that's a fiction? This is just saying, oh yeah, I'm going to now, my own mental proliferation isn't interesting enough. Now I'm just going to witness somebody else's mental proliferation. And it's not just fiction. That's the news too. That's so many things that are information that is out there for us. And we do that. We just start saying, oh yeah, I'm kind of bored. I'll just find somebody else's interesting mental proliferation. And usually it doesn't take one anywhere. It's just interesting, which is a sense of desire. Again, we're fulfilling our desire, having some sort of peak experience through thought. But when we prioritize something like solitude, then we can see that one of the definitions of solitude is the non-impingement from another person's thinking. It doesn't mean that when we are dealing with our own thoughts that we're not in solitude. I mean, there's ultimately, when we've rested in the mind and the sankharas have diminished significantly, then there is a sense of solitude that the Buddha speaks of. But for the most part, when we're talking about solitude, it's like, can we put down that impingement of the world and just be with whatever it is we're experiencing? And for a lot of people, the answer is no. There's not that sense of wanting to do that. There can be a dread of being alone. So as much as we can, we're rising up to what is really difficult on the path, and we're making as much effort as we can to move ourselves and our minds in a wholesome direction. So this is, we've talked a little bit in the last couple of days around restraint, around letting go of those inclinations we have that are going to get us into trouble. I haven't really allowed myself to have some sort of sensual indulgence today. I'll just have this dessert, or I'll have this favorite food, or I'll take more of this or that, or whatever it is that we find that is sensually appeasing. And it's just easy. It's so easy, as I've been talking about, just to go that route. But when we actually skip that, as I was talking about this morning, then there's so much freedom that we realize. And we just see that we don't really need to fill ourselves up with all of these useless things. And there can be a sense of happiness around that. When we ultimately see that we don't need any kind of gain from the senses, then that's where true happiness can arise. Because we see that desire is a liar. Desire doesn't help us. It's just a trick. It's an illusion, like a magician's trick. And we just keep getting fooled by it. It's like a broken record. It just plays on and on. So I think it's helpful sometimes to really think about how much time we have left. And that is one of the Buddha's reflections for us, to see that the days and nights are relentlessly passing. And what is it that we're doing with our time? How well are we spending our time? Is it helpful for us to engage in hating certain people or certain groups of people, or a person who's in our life, or to shut someone out? Is it helpful for us to be addicted to so many different things that we can be addicted to, and to keep saying, well, I just don't have the power to kind of work against that, just sort of keep doing my thing? There's an expression now, I guess, say, you do you. There's so many funny things that are said today around sort of the excuse of really people just kind of doing whatever they want and not being okay. And so we want to just keep looking at that over and over again, how this arises, and then step up, rise up and be willing to go through a bit of unpleasantness. This, in our tradition, of course, is called the dukkha that ends dukkha, not the dukkha that creates more dukkha, which is in a way of saying just that, it takes some difficulty, some effort to really be able to see and understand dukkha. And in engaging with that, even though it's hard to do, we come to the end of suffering. But we can also engage in dukkha that brings up more dukkha. It just develops more. You get into an argument with someone and then you just decide, I'm right and they're wrong, and there's nothing more to it. And I'm going to maintain that and never talk to this person again. So that just creates more suffering. Whereas, God, I don't want to apologize to them. They're the jerk. I don't want to say anything I didn't do anything wrong. It's all on them. But if we decide, okay, I'm going to see that there's something good that can come out of actually apologizing for any way that I was unskillful in doing something, then we see that when we do that, when we engage in that, then it really does have a positive effect on us. And it also has a positive effect on the other person. So I think that's enough words tonight. I encourage you all in your spiritual endeavors and your practice to really rise up as much as you can and make a good effort. These talks are often helpful because they're an encouragement for the speaker as well. So I just want to thank you for listening, and I'll end there.